The mid-1970s saw the introduction of the Rover SD1, which was heralded as the vehicle of the future for British automobiles. This car didn't resemble the traditional saloons that Britain was accustomed to seeing. The SD1 was sleek, bold, fastback-styled, and distinctly modern, and it was expected to usher Rover into a new age. It was named European Car of the Year in 1977 by the automotive industry, which praised its ambition, performance, and design. However, a few years later, this once celebrated masterpiece had come to represent industrial collapse, squandered opportunities, and reliability nightmares. What caused a car that won over judges all over Europe to plummet so sharply? The Rover SD1 narrative is a warning tale of promise dashed by turmoil, not merely about a defective car. In 1976, Rover introduced the SD1 during a period of severe strain on the British auto sector. The state-owned automaker British Leyland, which owned Rover, was having trouble with deteriorating quality, labor disputes, and intense competition from Japan and Europe. The SD1 was supposed to be a rescuer. It combined several models into a single flagship, replacing the Triumph 2000 series as well as the Rover P6. The goal of this daring move was to streamline production and decrease costs while providing a high-end executive vehicle that could compete with the Mercedes-Benz W123 and BMW 5 Series. The plan looked logical on paper. In actuality, it put a lot of pressure on one car at the most inconvenient moment. The Rover SD1 was innovative in terms of appearance. It was influenced by modern supercars such as the Ferrari Daytona for its long bonnet, wedge-shaped profile, and hatchback ray. In contrast to its boxy competitors, the SD1 appeared swift even when it was motionless. For an executive vehicle, the choice to choose a 5-door hatchback form was bold since it combined functionality and style. Instead of focusing on traditional wood-heavy luxury, Rover sought to create a modern, driver-focused cabin. As a result, the vehicle felt modern, European, and progressive. The Car of the Year award seemed to confirm that Rover had finally figured out the formula, and both judges and critics were impressed. But beneath the eye-catching exterior, the SD1's armor began to show signs of weakness. Cutting costs was cruel. Because of British Leyland's financial difficulties, engineers were compelled to reuse parts whenever possible, even if they weren't perfect. The trim quality differed greatly between cars. The switches were erratic, and the dashboard plastics felt flimsy. Paint quality could be startlingly subpar for a high-end car, and panel gaps were frequently uneven right out of the factory. Rover was finding it difficult to maintain production while competitors were improving their manufacturing techniques. Engineering decisions made things even more difficult. Older mechanical parts, such as variants of the venerable Rover V8 engine, were a major component of the SD1. The V8 was smooth and powerful, but at a time when fuel prices were skyrocketing due to the oil crisis, it was thirsty. Although 4- and 6-cylinder engines were also available, they frequently lacked the sophistication that executive segment buyers demanded. Another flaw in gearboxes was that automatic transmissions were unreliable and manual transmissions were cumbersome. Driving should have been a confident experience, but it frequently felt uneven and incomplete. Reliability, or lack thereof, was arguably the most detrimental problem. Poor build consistency, cooling system failures, and electrical issues beset the early SD1's owners. Reported concerns ranging from defective devices to full power shutdowns. Water leaks were widespread, leading to moist carpets and rusting in hidden spots. Rust protection was poor, and many cars began showing major corrosion far earlier than expected. For a car positioned as a premium executive model, these problems were unacceptable. ownership rapidly became a test of patience. Dealerships were swamped with warranty claims, and replacement parts were routinely delayed due to supply chain inefficiencies inside British Leyland. Some owners found themselves waiting weeks for simple components, while others encountered frequent malfunctions that destroyed trust in the brand. Fleet purchases, once a solid source of sales for Rover, began abandoning the SD1 in favor of German rivals that just worked better. Day after day, industrial unrest had a silent but deadly influence on the SD1's downfall. Factory strikes and labor issues delayed production schedules and led to variable assembly quality. Cars constructed on various days could vary substantially in fit and finish. This unpredictability eroded consumer trust. Even excellent evaluations could not overcome word-of-mouth reports of lemons and breakdowns. The SD1's reputation suffered far more damage than its real engineering deserved. Despite its problems, the SD1 was not without genius. On the road, a well-sorted example may be quite delightful. Especially on highways, the lengthy wheelbase and rear-wheel drive arrangement provided steady, assured handling. The SD1 was one of the fastest British saloons of its day because of the V8 variant's outstanding performance. High-performance models were even used by police departments for highway patrols, demonstrating the car's capability. The Rover SD1 was also designed to be a worldwide product, but few people are aware of this. There were plans to export to Australia, Europe, and potentially the US. However, quality issues put an end to American aspirations before they even got started. In markets where German competitors had already established reputations for bulletproof reliability, the SD1 simply could not compete. The idea that British automobiles were fashionable but essentially defective was strengthened by each overseas setback. Rover made an effort to address the issues with the SD1 over the years. Later manufacturing cars were more dependable, rust protection was slightly enhanced, and interior materials were improved through facelifts. However, the harm was already done. In the automotive industry, trust is nearly impossible to rebuild once it has been lost. It was the horror stories, not the improvements, that buyers remembered. The Rover SD1 had come to represent what could have been by the time manufacture stopped in 1986. Conceptually, it wasn't a bad car. In actuality, it was years ahead of many competitors in both design and ambition. It was destroyed by a confluence of weak management, cost-cutting, labor disputes, and deteriorating quality control rather than by a single catastrophic fault. Now, the Car of the Year award seemed ironic, a reminder of a time when optimism momentarily triumphed over reality. The Rover SD1 is quietly making a comeback among fans today. Because of their daring designs and captivating engines, survivors are treasured, rebuilt, and admired. In retrospect, the SD1 is seen as the British auto industry's final significant risk before foreign producers seized control. It serves as a reminder that creativity is insufficient on its own. Even award-winning automobiles can have catastrophic failures in the absence of dependability, consistency, and trust. The Rover SD1's lack of eyesight did not lead it to fail. The reality in which it was constructed could not sustain that vision, which is why it collapsed. Because of this, the story is both tragic and unforgettable.